So this is what your clinicians will see when they log into Insight. They'll see a list of all of their patients, and you'll notice that some of them have one or two flags next to their names. These are patients that in their most recent survey, they reported some sort of dangerous thoughts or behavior. Someone with a critical alert reported having severe suicidal thoughts with possible intention to act. And we recommend that we immediately alert your clinician by email or text to any such reports. The clinicians can also tell us how they would like to be alerted when other reports come in. Most clinicians choose to have us email or text them a link to the new reports either at the end of each day or first thing in their following morning. So let's say we want to see how Angela is doing. We would just click through on Angela's name, and we would see a patient dashboard where you would see all the information about the different conditions that we're monitoring Angela for. The black bar on the left is how Angela reported feeling in the 30 days before she began treatment. So you can see that Angela reported coming into treatment feeling severely depressed. She's been doing a lot better during the time she was in treatment, but something just happened that caused the level of her depression symptoms to spike. We're also monitoring Angela for anxiety, trauma, and suicidal thoughts and intentions. You can see that Angela reported having intended to commit suicide in the 30 days before she began treatment. Again, she's been feeling much better during the time she was in treatment, but again, something just caused her to start to feel modestly suicidal again. Angela has a history of self-harm, but has not been self-harming since she was in treatment. And she has some sort of eating issue. Now, if she was exhibiting the classic symptoms of anorexia, bulimia, or binge eating disorder, it would be labeled in the title. So all we know is that something is going on. And maybe we'd make a mental note to look at exactly what different behavior she's reporting on her surveys. Is she making herself vomit, or is she intensely exercising or waking up and eating in the night, that sort of thing. Angela says she has not been using drugs or alcohol since treatment. We always monitor the strength and frequency of cravings, how she's getting along with her family members, and if she's in IOP treatment, how many days a week she's attending treatment. Additionally, we always ask a satisfaction with treatment question. And at a couple of different points in the survey, we'll ask an open-ended question. Now, this is optional, and a lot of your patients won't bother to respond. But what we hear from our clinical users is that those that do, they feel like they often get a different type of information from those patients than they do in face-to-face interviews. Because some people are just a lot more comfortable talking to the anonymous internet about how they're feeling. And anything they tell us, we'll report back to you. So a couple of other things I'll point out. You can always generate a PDF copy of this report and download it and print it out. You can also look in under data submissions and see exactly how this patient responded to every question on every survey that they've submitted. The next thing I want to show you is what I consider one of the coolest parts of this software, and that's our group summary reports. You can look at your patients by clinician or by program, and what this does is show you just the most recent data point for each patient as a function of how long they've been in treatment. And any patients that are in the yellow or red danger zone, we label with their name, so that you can scroll down this page and just look for what names appear over and over again. Your clinical director, for example, might do this before a clinical staff meeting and then go into the staff meeting and say, hey, let's talk about what's going on with Karen and Angela because they seem to be really struggling. The last thing I'd like to show you is how you enroll patients in Insight. So let's say you have a new patient that's just started treatment. Your intake coordinator, or whoever you're making responsible for data collection, would open up the survey link page on an iPad or a laptop. They would click New Adult Client, and then they would hand this iPad or laptop to the patient. They'll be automatically logged out of the software, and the patient will be taken to a patient permission, where they'll give us information about themselves and then give us permission to collect their information and immediately report it back to you. Once they've completed the permission, if they're an adult, they'll be taken immediately to the intake questionnaire, where they will tell us about what brought them to treatment. They'll be screened for different co-occurring disorders. They'll be asked about addiction severity and various quality of life questions, etc. Once they've submitted the intake report, then their name will appear on this list of progress monitoring reports. Like George has submitted an intake, but he hasn't yet submitted any of the quick update surveys that tell us how he's feeling more recently. If they have, we'll see when was the last update survey submitted and when is the next one due. So let's say that Brad is coming in for a meeting with his therapist tomorrow, and it's been a while since he submitted his last survey. If Brad has access to a smartphone or the internet, you can click Send Request, and he will be immediately emailed or texted a link to his next survey with a request from his clinician to fill it out. Now, if Brad is in residential treatment and doesn't have access to the internet, then your person in charge of data collection would find Brad in a quiet moment, would click on his name on an iPad or a laptop, and then would hand this iPad to Brad, and he will be able to take his next survey and submit it immediately. Now, because it's so easy for us to send requests out, most of our IOP clients ask us to do this for them automatically once a week. This is typically on Sunday afternoons, but it can be whenever you would wish us to send out the request. And we would automatically send out a request to all of your patients who are due for their next survey. And so that if we do it on a Sunday afternoon, when your clinicians come in Monday morning, they'll have up-to-date information for most of their patients. So anyway, that's a quick overview of the Insight software. If you have any questions, I would recommend that you ask them now in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to get right back to you, or they will pass along your question to me so that I can answer it at the end of this webinar. So we'll go back to our slides now.